Firstly, I'd like to welcome you all to this session of Internet Fellowship and Grant Opportunities and Challenges. To know more about Internet Fellowships and Grants, first we have to understand what are fellowships and grants that are available there. So, the things that you have to know about fellowships are first, fellowships are value based and scientific process. So when we talk about value-based and scientific process, so there is a certain value that is involved with fellowship, and there is a specific scientific process that goes into it while selecting fellows and while selecting grants. So they have certain values involved, so which we have to know. And every time when a fellowship or a grant comes out, the first thing that an applicant has to do is he or she has to go through their guidelines, their information that they provide, and you have to go through it thoroughly because these criterias are based on their values and upon which you can target and further help improve your application. The second one is information and communication. The fellowship and grants opportunities are based on information and communication. So the applicants have to be more focused on information and the communication that happens, because a lot of the times the communication that comes out and the information that is involved are of potential nature. If you focus more on to those information, then there are a lot of clues through which you can get, or there are more opportunities that you can manage through that information. uh, Third one is process and condition driven. When we talk about fellowships and grant, it's more specifically a process that involves a lot of conditions, a lot of criteria. So it's the program that has a value, and under that value there is a certain process that goes into it in making the fellowship more cognitive, more it is more about uh, how the program designers have involved in creating more outreach and engagement so that the applicants can bring in or share their knowledge and be more focused in getting out the goals and objectives of the program. The fourth one is result oriented. Uh, Most of the fellowships and grants are more result and outcome focused. It is already given in the information and guidelines that is provided, and when you fill your application process also, you have to be very result oriented, very focused in terms of your goals and objectives. The fifth one is evaluation based system. As we all know, uh, fellowships and grants, they have different criteria, they have different process, so it's evaluation based system. And a lot of the things, a lot of the information that you give in while filling up the application, these information go through a lot of evaluation process. So it is more like the information that you give is not just important, but you have to put in the right information at the right time so that the person who is evaluating will be able to get the good idea about you. Accountability and transparency. When we talk about accountability and transparency, it is more specifically related with grants, but it is more also about a person when he or she is applying for fellowships as well, because individual credibility is something that is more specifically there. And when you give your information, or when you put in your details and about the things that you have done, never put in wrong information. Always be clear. Always be clear about the things that you can do, because the internet itself is connected, and the links or the information that you put in can be searched, can be further be checked. So there is no point of being or lying or hiding information. The seventh one is fact based. As you know, it's a process. So a lot of the information are fact based. base. It is more of a very stronger system that is result oriented, and there are certain facts that are involved. Never write false or never make up things. Always be clear about the things that you have done and what you can do. Sustainability, especially when in terms of grants and fellowships. These days, there's a pattern that uh, there is a trend where, especially in the fellowship forms, they ask you about what you're gonna do, uh, how you're gonna share your knowledge, things like that. And even in the grants, it is more about the projects that are more sustainable, that can further be prolonged. So things like that have to be considered, and then it is very utmost important that you take care of sustainability when you design or when you write the projects. Monitoring and evaluation is a thing that is specifically related with grants, because it is more about uh, the work that you do. When you are talking about fellowship, it is more about documentation. But when you are doing grants, so since I've already mentioned a couple of number of times that the fellowships and grants are more about process. There are certain values, the evaluations, the things that are happening. So it has to be very focused. It has to be very tight. It has to work in a certain mechanism, in a certain form, in a way, so that it is tightly packaged. I mean to say, that it is a certain package where you come in, where you share your knowledge, where you are asked to perform, and you're supposed to perform and then share your knowledge, and things are supposed to happen. So that is it. The next one is community driven. A lot of the times, fellowships and grants are more involved with community, as internet itself is a community driven process. So these days a lot of community leaders are given fellowships and grants, because it helps it helps to outreach and disseminate the information, share the knowledge, further expand in so many ways. So that is the reason why it's more of a getting into the community driven ways. Yes, now we talk about fellowship opportunities, challenges, and things to be done. So, as I've talked earlier, uh, fellowships, they have certain opportunities and challenges. Opportunity, when I talk about opportunities, you have to be more focused in the information that is given to you within the package. I mean to say, within the whole announcement. So there's a lot of information that is given there. So you have to be very smart enough to pick those points, those values, and put it in your application form, so that it aligns with the evaluation methodology and the objective and goals of the program. Profile management, as I call it, the world itself has shrunk with the help of internet. So everything is there in the internet. So if you are putting your information, try to put in links, try to put in testimonials, try to give more information about yourself, so that it is very easy for them to evaluate you. um, Yes, and the next one is check to see if you meet. A lot of the times people don't do this, but you have to check the eligibility criteria, because there are certain points mentioned there, which might make you more more alert about the whole application process. And there are chances that you might come up as well or go down, but you always have to consider the eligibility criterias that are involved with the application process. And it is always given. You just need to click the next link, and then you can have all these information available. So the challenges: communication. Communication has been a major challenge. When we talk about communication, it is more like you communicating with others, or you communicating with the people. Because I have seen this, that a lot of the times when the application form is filled, people don't communicate. If they don't understand, they don't contact people. And especially when we talk about the developing nation people, they are more hesitant in asking questions. And that is the reason why, a lot of the application, they are, they go to trash, because a lot of the times they are withdrawn, you know, because of the lack of communication. If you don't understand anything, just contact them. There is information available about how to contact the people that are involved, and you can always use the contact details. Clarity in application process, always have this, always be clear about the things that you want to do, the things that you want to say, the things that the program says that you need to absorb. So you have to be very clear about your values, and you have to align your values with the values of the program and the fellowship or the grant programs. Language barriers, yes, especially in terms of developing nations. We have different languages, and the language barrier certainly makes you more hesitant in asking questions, and certainly in networking, certainly in communicating. So communication is a very important process when you talk about fellowship. If you are not communicating properly, then you have a problem. So always communicate. And language barrier is a challenge, but more or less people do understand that, if it's not your native language, then people do understand that it is your second language or third language, and people do accept the mistakes. So it is not a bigger deal, but the whole problem starts when you don't communicate, and language comes as a barrier. But it is not. So wrong information, never give wrong information, never give wrong links, never impose something that you have not done. Never pretend. Always give your true links, things that you can do, and that, and there is a possibility. Lack of evidence. A lot of the times people just blabber. I mean to say, they just write to the level of giving information and vague information. They don't give links, they don't give information about the things that they have done. So that is something that comes as a bigger challenge. Now let's go to the things to be considered. When we talk about fellowship, always the first thing that I ask all my friends or people around me to do is always read the guidelines or FAQ, because that is the perfect place to learn about the program's values, about the fellowship conditions, and things like that. While filling up the application, always be alert and focused. Yeah, you just have to be very focused, alert, in terms of the information that you put in terms of the information that is going around in social media and stuff like that. You just have to be alert. You cannot just sit there, fill the application, stay back. No, these days, the program also demands a certain level of engagement and outreach. People send you the program committee sends you a lot of information. They ask you to start engaging. Ask you to start outreach, stuff like this. And you have to be, they are giving you the opportunity. Then you should be more engaged in such kind of activities. Since they are providing you the platform, then you should show your skills. Application must be clear about your goals and activities. We have already discussed about this. Engagement and contribution should be well documented during and after. So this is what, like in the previous point also I mentioned this, that engagement and contribution is something that starts as soon as you fill the application form, because you start to get in information, and information starts to come in from all sides. So the best thing to do is start engaging, because it's not that just that the as soon as you start the fellowship process, the whole world is connected with social media. So once you start to engage, then a lot of the people start to focus on you. You never know how you might get picked in, because there are a lot of chances that if you are doing an engagement, then in a certain way that's an outreach as well, and people from the program committee or people from the program might spot you. So like you just have to be very dynamic and smart during and after, because even after the program also, there are a lot of opportunities that comes to you. Personally, if you're asking me about fellowships, then I think that you know you get to learn a lot. You get to learn a lot, you get to share a lot. And the most important thing is, like, in this world, with this the help of technology, network, and social media, it doesn't take a lot to do programs. You can just contact few friends, you can share it with your friends, you can do a Zoom meeting, you can write a blog, you can tweet. Like, so many possibilities that you can do. So it is upon you, upon your energy, upon your precise mindset about what to do. So you just have to be very clear about what you want to do and how you want to do it, because the world is very small. It is interconnected, and once you have the piece going on, then you kind of like work your way out. So grants. So regarding grants, I specifically highlight 3 points that are like values, values of the organization, value of the program, mission of the program, mission of the grants, and vision. These 3 things are very important when you fill an application process. So you have to align yourself with the program so that it matches and the evaluation goes in the right track. So in this, you have to go through a lot of information about the organization, about your work, about how you want to do it, about what are the criterias are. So it is more specifically how you process all these information, and how you adapt to those. So it is not just a one-way process, but you just have to be very, 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 very dynamic in it. Grant action items. Always read the criteria and FAQ. More or less, when you talk about grants and fellowship, both are like similar. It is just like when you talk about grants, then the grants starts after fellowship. I strongly believe in this. And once you have the pace going on from fellowship, then grant is something like as that comes as it is the next step. So you don't need to worry about it, because you kind of like have a certain experience with the fellowship. So it is more like sharpening the skills and putting it right with the action. So it is more of a process, I think. The action plan must be clear in the proposal: problem, process, solution. So we have talked about this: problem identification and its core components and elements to be clearly defined. So you know it all about the defining the core components and elements of the problem, process, and solution. Evidence-based intervention. A lot of the times, when people are evaluating, even when I am evaluating, I would like to see some work done. Or that person has certain experience. So that is something that is highly prized when you talk about grants or fellowships. Like it gives that application more of an edge. Case study data strengthens the proposal. So that is more like, it is more like building up the process. So once you start the application process, once you start to work on your information and presentation, you kind of like build that process. So gradually it comes with each and every step. Community engagement, sustainability. As I mentioned it earlier, community and engagement and sustainability are like, these things are more important. Describe the prioritized group. You need to focus on the priority of the work that you want to do, and the things that you will focus on. Accountability and transparency. So when you talk about grants, there's it is one of the very utmost important thing accountability and transparency, especially in developing nation. We kind of like don't we are not that transparent. When I say transparent, I specifically mean you just have to be very focused in these things. You have to share the knowledge. You have to build that process. You have to be very clear, right? And especially in developing nation, the process of accounting and transparency is something that goes as a secondary process. So that needs to be refined, that needs to have a system of its own, so that it goes on with the overall process and builds it. um, it's not that I'm saying that the whole developing nation scenario is not accountable, but it is like more of a very generalized concept that if you have a specific value about accountability and transparency, then things are more aligned. In case of confusion, communicate with the necessary context. This is very important. You have to be very open and very, very, very clear. So the availability. So ICANN fellowships is there, IGF fellowships are there, ethnic fellowships are available, APSIC fellowship is there, Internet Society fellowship is there, APASA funding grants are there, APRIGF fellowship, Article 19 grants, and dot 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 dot. So now I'm going to focus more about fellowships and their types. So when you talk about ICANN fellowships work in a number of ways. ICANN fellowships are specifically related to ICANN community. So that's more of a community focused, driven process. So they will not give you fellowship till the time you are focused in the ICANN process. With the work that ICANN is doing in the community, so it has to be aligned in a certain way. And there are different types of fellowships. I mean to say, there are newcomers fellowship, there are fellowships within the RELOs, so it goes on. And there are different crop opportunities, things like that. So you just have to be very specific about the things that you want to do, about the things that you want to learn. Now we talk about IGF fellowships. So IGF fellowships are more about grassroots level, community based. So it is more specifically talks about interventions, about local level engagement at national level. So that is more of an IGF fellowship. They want to know about the IG, internet governance status, about the work that things are happening, and specifically, multi-stakeholder engagement and stuff like that. Whereas you talk about ICANN, it is more about multi-stakeholder engagement in terms of the work, the scenario of ICANN, and the public policy process that goes on. So it's public policy process, you need to get involved in. So there are different RELOs and things like that, and you have to get involved in those. Ethnic, we talk about ethnic fellowship. Ethnic fellowships are more technical fellowships. So for ethnic fellowships, they have their own criteria. You go through it, and there are different standards as well. You can go and engage there. APSIC fellowships. When we talk about APSIC fellowships are more specifically a kind of like a TOT program where we bring in people from Asia Pacific, and we have a very cohort program where people go in and they learn and they exchange information. It is more of a multi-stakeholder engagement program. So it is very rigorous, and then we kind of like focus more towards national segs and stuff like that. So each fellowship have their own criteria, and each fellowships are specifically related with their guidelines. So now let's talk about APASA. APASA is something like a funding funding grant. So if you have a specific program that is there, then you can always contact them and go through their guidelines, and then contact them for the funding for your project. Okay, here are some resources. I didn't go through all because there is a like due to time restraint, and the presentation is also getting too long. So now going to resources. So there's a newcomer toolkit about ICANN that I have designed, which is there. You can go through, learn, get some points about how to engage in ICANN. There are different social media groups and channels like Internet Governance Hub, where you can get in information which you can start within your own country, community group, sharing information, contacting. Basically, it is more about communication. Alumni association subscription list like Internet Freedom Forum. So all these things are happening. So it is not just a process. It is more of a dynamic process that goes on, and where information are disseminated. It comes in, you have to process it, and you have to find your way out. So questions. I think the most important thing about fellowships and grants is you have to ask questions. You have to ask questions. You need to be inquisitive about their values, about the system, about things that they are doing, about what you want to do, about your profile building, about your documentation of the work that you are doing. So, and there are 100 points. So at least if you go through all these 7 6 7 points, then you're probably able to build your profile, and then you have a better application process. Thank you for listening. Thank you.